Hey everyone, it's Raghu, and I am back with a new Mindrolling podcast. And I'm here with Jeffrey Rubin, Dr. Jeffrey Rubin, who really combines psychotherapy and Buddhism. And it's kind of one of my favorite things to do is hang out with people like Jeffrey, which I've done a lot. Mark Epstein is in that area as well. So I believe we'll get something interesting out of this. Well, anyhow, welcome, Jeffrey, to the
Thank
show.
you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. Do you want to just give us a little bit of an idea of how you got where you are today, mostly in terms of consciousness and when,
Sure.
a teenager angst is my story, and then, meeting up with psychedelics. What's yours?
Mine is that I was a traditionally conditioned male teenager, and I loved basketball. And when I was playing
That's
basketball when
right.
I was 18, a strange thing happened on the court. We were winning by 2 points. The other team hit a basket with 10 seconds to, we hit a basket with 10 seconds to go. Then they hit a basket with 5 seconds to go.
Oh, wow.
My teammates were crushed. Some strange calmness descended upon me. I walked over to my coach, who was also my English teacher. I put my hand on his shoulder and I said to them, "Don't panic, just tell them to get me the ball." We rolled the ball in, and the clock didn't start until I touched the ball. And luckily, the other team stayed back. And when I turned, Raghu, to dribble up the court, it was monastery silent. I just didn't hear the cheerleaders. I didn't feel any fear. I didn't feel any hope. My mind was blank. I guess in Japanese culture and martial arts and artists, they call it mushin, no mindedness. So there was just nothingness. And I sensed it was time to shoot. There was 5 seconds to go. And I jumped in the air, and the defender's hand came in my face. And I released the ball, and I couldn't see anything, and my feet hit the ground. And I look up at the net, and the net has gone skyward, which we knew meant we had a slang phrase called burying it. And it meant you had a high arching shot that the velocity of it made the net go up. So I saw the net go up, and I still was pretty blank. And then I looked at the scoreboard, and it was Widmer 51, Fieldston 50. And then people started screaming. But the interesting thing was I went in the locker room, and I was kind of futzing around while everyone was getting ready to leave, and I was stalling because I had the doorway had opened in this alternative reality. I had a different sense of consciousness, and that intrigued me more than winning. The reason I started by saying I was a traditionally male conditioned young man is
Yeah.
that winning was everything, and winning didn't matter. It was, what is that state of mind, and how do I get back there?
Yeah.
So I go off to college. I went to Princeton, and I read widely in the humanities, art history, Renaissance history, philosophy, religion, trying to answer two questions. What was that state of consciousness, and how do I get there again? No answers are forthcoming. Then a year after, I'm in a bookstore in Brooklyn, New York, and they have one of those little magazines they sometimes have in health food stores, or used to. And it advertised the meditation retreat at Insight Meditation Center, Barre, Massachusetts,
Oh,
with Joseph Goldstein, Jack Kornfield, Sharon Solzberg, and there was one,
Joseph.
Jacqueline Mandel Schwartz, I think. And I went, and I was blown away. I was just blown away. And I became a meditator at that point. I went to Naropa the summer after and studied for about 6
What
weeks.
year was that?
It was
Do you
either
remember?
77 or 78.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And I took
After
a
Ram
course.
Dass went, yeah.
Yeah. I took a course with Trungpa. I took a course with Joseph, Essential Buddhism. And then I began studying both parallels, psychoanalysis, Western psychotherapy, Freud, Jung, their successors, and Buddhism. And I took it really seriously. There was a bookstore, Samuel Weiser's, on the Lower East Side,
Oh,
and it
yeah.
had old arcane texts of meditation manuals from Southeast Asia, translated into English. And
Yeah.
I would read everything I could get my hands on. And I started concurrently doing both. And it was not something that anyone was doing or really talking about very much at that point. And I kept finding, Raghu, that both were changing my heart. I was becoming a better person, more compassionate, more present, more flowing with life's experiences. And everyone either assumed the West was not as evolved as the East, or that the East was pathological. And a great teacher that I had, who unfortunately died a few years ago, Joel Kramer, a great yogi, said, don't force the synthesis before it organically emerges. And I just kept studying both for years, and then wrote a paper early on in my training called Meditation. 1983, I wrote it. 1985, it was published. I was still in a psychoanalytic training, still a candidate. And I basically said if a therapist would meditate, they would listen better. Because Buddhist meditation trained exactly the state of mind Freud talked about for therapists, evenly hovering or evenly suspended attention. Problem is, he didn't talk about how to cultivate it. He couldn't operationalize it, and Buddhism did. And then I took it very seriously. I would study the ethics and how do I bring it into daily life. It wasn't an academic study. It was very, very personal. I sensed these two wisdom traditions were crucial for my own evolution, my kind of person I wanted to be. And I've just been studying them ever since.
And working with people.
And working with people.
Yeah.
So at some point I got trained to be a therapist, and then I started bringing it in. And then at some point, Buddhist teachers started coming to me. I saw a Zen master that was written up in the Times. I couldn't talk about it very much because I didn't want to break confidentiality. But the interviewer, Chip Brown, I think it's Enlightenment Therapy in like Times Magazine around 2011 or 2014, in April, I think, April 29th, I think. They interviewed the Zen master, and I would talk about my view of therapy and my philosophy. And I said, I can neither confirm nor deny that I see a Zen master. But anyway, then they put the two narratives together. And so that kind of thing, I treated Tibetan teacher, and then students, and then my view just kept deepening and evolving.
That's so great.
Of how to bring them together, yeah.
Yeah. I have someone to tell your basketball story to that would truly appreciate it. You may know who he is, Krishna Das. He's the chant guy. He was also playing basketball at school.
Did not
You were
know.
at high school. I think he was in college, actually.
Yeah.
And he unfortunately got really badly injured. But if anybody would get this story, he would. For sure, because that is what he's doing. We were lucky, you might say. It's not the right word, but you might say, in that we were with somebody who was that thing where there was no ripples, nothing, where there was that moment of hitting that shot.
Pure presence, yeah.
Pure presence. So we could identify it, certainly, through the rest of our lives. And, he's extremely, we were just in India. He was there doing some benefits and also evenings, kirtans. And you're talking 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 people at each one of these events.
Wow.
And it's like, what happened? It came back to us. We brought it back to America. Mostly it's Buddhists that bring it back, quote unquote. And then it went back to India. And he is a living example of that pull that wants that moment.
Yeah.
Because he is able to be in that moment. That's his practice.
Yeah.
And anyhow, I'll tell him the story.
Yeah, it's in the book that I think while
it is in. Yeah, no, it is, and I marked it off actually. Yeah.
Yeah, he could see it there. Yeah.
So that's so great.
Please send my regards.
Will do.
Doing beautiful work.
Yeah, thank you. So wait, we should talk now. A central premise of this synthesis, we may call it, is by the way. Jeffrey has this wonderful, you sent me 2 books, Psychotherapy Case Studies, right, was one, and the other one, which came much later for some reason, Meditative Psychotherapy and Psychoanalysis, Pathways to Healing and Transformation, which had more of a straightforward narrative as a book, right? And I thought, gee, this one with, I don't know, psychotherapy case studies. I don't know. I had, huh? And then I just went through and one after the other, I was intrigued. And then the level also of suffering in this world. I mean, you are coming into it on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Is so extraordinary. And then
Very good.
and how it goes back to the way in which, how we were brought up, who brought us up, what the environment was at that time.
Yeah.
What the social, the whole thing. I mean, we can all recognize that, but certainly, I mean, I'm a big believer in this can help. Ram Dass, you know what he used to say when people said, what do you think about me getting therapy of some sort? He said, yeah, it's great if the therapist doesn't think he's a therapist.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you want to talk about meditative psychotherapy?
Sure. So meditative psychotherapy is my attempt to bring these two wisdom traditions together. And there are different ways to do it. I wouldn't want anyone to think, I sometimes joke when I lecture, treat what I say as footprints of my journey, not a blueprint for anybody else's.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it's my integration of the two. And basically it has three elements, which I can kind of easily summarize. The first is a different kind of listening. I call it the marriage of Buddha and Freud. And it's using, it doesn't have to be Asian, but it's any practice that cultivates moment to moment, non-judgmental, non-interfering presence. That can be Qigong. It can be prayer. It can be Sufi dancing. So I don't want the audience to think it has to be Buddhist. It can be many things. Happens to be very well done and represented in Buddhism. But it's any path, sincere path, that will help you focus, concentrate, have more equanimity, more compassion, self-compassion, compassion for others.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, Raghu, a breakthrough for me was some years ago when I realized meditation's wonderful and it provides a technique that Freud was pointing to but didn't know how to train. But there's one crucial thing lacking for complete listening, and that's an interest in meaning, decoding meaning and discovering understanding. Now, let me be clear. This is a subtle point. Meditation done sincerely can often lead to what they call in the Zen tradition, prajna wisdom. In other words, an immediate, and I can see you know what I'm talking about, but that your face and you're shaking your head. It's an immediate seeing and knowing of something very deep about the universe. I guess in the mystical literature, it's called gnosis, Gnosis. It's a direct knowing. It's an intimacy with the universe and a direct knowing. So sometimes that happens in meditation without therapy, without anything else. You could be a therapist. You could have practiced for decades. Something doesn't change in your therapy, even with therapy. And 1 second in meditation, boom, it opens up. The knot, K-N-O-T, is untied. But sometimes that doesn't happen. And when it doesn't happen, we sometimes need to translate or decode the meaning. And that's what I saw with the Buddhist teachers, that they were, and I'm not putting down, I'm like this, we're all like this, recycling some of the same storylines and narratives for decades. And the reason is they were one with their experience, but then they weren't always figuring out what it meant. I'll give you an example. I think I won't mention names, but there's a book on Tibetan Buddhism, sincere, good book. And in it, the author mentions a martial arts teacher in the meditative community she's in. And she says, this explains meditation, what this martial arts teacher said. Imagine you're at a party. So I say, hi, Raghu. Then I turn to the next person, hi, hi, hi. And I'm fully present with each person I encounter. This sounds wonderful at first until you reflect on it. Like, imagine that you were at the party. And what would happen would be, it would be what I call flitting. I would say hello to you wholeheartedly. I take you in, you take me in, we connect. We maybe want to connect, speak later, but then I move on. I can't get to know you. You can't get to know me. There's not a lingering. And I think that's what happens with some meditators. So something comes up. Let's get concrete. So a woman, but it doesn't have to be a woman, is in an abusive relationship and she's a meditator. And I have cases like this, although not in the book. And she's about ready to leave because she's woken up to the fact she deserves better. This abuse is destructive for both of them. And he leaves in a rage. He's just been abusive. He goes out to get some more alcohol, and she says, I'm going to sit. So she goes to meditate, meditates 20 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour. What happens at the end of meditation? She's more cooled out. She has more equanimity. She has more compassion. He comes home, and what happens? She goes right back into it. So she's cooled out rather than the troubling emotion leading to her leaving. Doesn't always happen, but it sometimes leads to a detachment, not a non-attachment.
That's a big point.
That's an important distinction. So we sometimes need to translate or decode the meaning of what's going on, not just be present and feel it. Ram Dass actually has a fascinating section in one of his last books. I mentioned this in The Art of Flourishing, where he says that he blames himself for the physical stuff that happened. He said, I denied and neglected my body. Yeah. And he said, I was a good student of Vipassana and I felt it and I let go of it. But he said there was a subtle self-dismissal and that led to the body problems he had. Yep. I can't prove that that's true. I don't know.
No, it's absolutely 100%. Those of us that knew him well.
Right? It seems apt, right? Yep. So that's the problem. So stage one is this heightened listening. Quiet and focus the mind, generally using Asian, but doesn't have to be Asian. It could be Western contemplative approaches. Then stage two, we translate or decode the meaning of what arose, not while we're meditating, because then it's self-psychotherapy. It's not meditation. When we're meditating, we want to be meditating, but afterwards. And then stage three, liberated intimacy, relating to ourselves and others in different sort of way. More empathy, more self-reflectiveness. Those are the three ingredients. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It sounds also, I mean, you tell me, but a word or a phrase that's bandied about so much these days, spiritual bypass.
Exactly.
That people are using meditation in this case as a way not to deal with the deeper feelings, etc. that have come up.
And one of the chapters you probably read in Meditative Therapy was on spiritual scandals. I still think we haven't, to use an old word we used in the 60s, grokked it. I feel we still haven't understood it. And I think Western therapy could shed some light on it too.
Wait, I don't know. We haven't understood it. We're humans and we love power and we love sex. Put them together and you are obviously talking about people that cannot get honest with themselves. Mindfulness isn't working for them, whatever it may be. Is there anything else to say about it?
Yes.
Okay,
that's what I try to say. That's what I try to say in the chapter. Yes. Why is it? Why is it they have highly developed ethical framework and they violate it? What is the self-blindness about? Underneath, okay, they're blind. Okay, they hold into power. Okay, they bought a second set of books, so now at both their houses they have the same set of whatever the particular, or alcohol or stealing money from the community. But why? We can go deeper, and we can go deeper than just sort of having regulations and having a board that oversees. And also the other thing that's never talked about, how do you have so many so-called enlightened teachers claiming that disciples are enlightened who then do extraordinarily unenlightened things, sleeping with students when they know they have AIDS, et cetera, et cetera. So where's the enlightenment of the seemingly enlightened teacher? So this is not just low-level practitioners acting out. This is at the highest levels. I think there's more we can say about the reason for
I mean, I know exactly what you're speaking to and who you're speaking to and all of that. That has been a huge problem in the Tibetan, the Western Tibetan community, for sure. And I guess I mean, delusion and ignorance. Is there anything else to say about it?
Yeah, but you see, I only learned this a few years ago. So someone wrote in the New York Review of Books, Shakespeare's genius was due to his imagination.
Hmm.
So a really smart mentor of mine said that's a mystification. And I'd heard the word for years, decades, and I suddenly understood it. So as I understand it, a mystification is an explanation that hides the actual
Mm.
truth.
Hmm.
So the thing
Okay.
is to say greed, delusion, ignorance, okay, but why? And why aren't you and I falling into that? There's a story that I'm particularly fond of I think it's in the psychotherapy case studies, exploring the prison you didn't know you were in, escaping the prison you didn't know you were in, the first book you
Yeah,
mentioned,
yeah.
about a so-called paranoid schizophrenic that I work with. And at the same time I was working with him, I was reading Ken Wilber and I was reading a book on scandals. And this guy was operating on a higher moral level than some of the teachers. He was obviously paranoid schizophrenic, but he had a code. Why don't they have a code? Why do they violate the code? Why are they greedy, ignorant, and delusive? And how are they? But they're not that way all the time. So what's different in those moments? I think we can do better. I really do. I think
You
we
are
go
a
further.
real optimist. I like that.
I don't think we're locked in. It seems like human nature, but
Hmm.
I think we're not locked in. We can go further, but we have to have the courage and the truth to really look into it with compassion. But look into it, but with compassion.
Yeah, that's why we loved Ram Dass when we first heard him. It's how I got to India to meet our guru. It was just this, I intuitively believed he was, that self honesty wasn't bullshit.
Yeah.
It was real. And it allowed me to be a little bit more self honest. And then, of course, moving on. I mean, when he first started teaching, he would refer to Gurdjieff and self remembering.
Yes.
And then it turned into mindfulness,
Right.
as the
Right.
decades went along.
Right.
And yeah, I listen. That to me, it's in one thing that in the book you say the teachings of the Buddha gave me several priceless gifts, including a new way of looking within, which helped me see. To me, that's absolutely the first thing that happens to an individual.
Yeah.
And once that happens, then it's a gathering up of intention to follow through with the kind of practices like mindfulness, meditation, chanting, whatever it may be. It doesn't. As you said, it does not matter.
Yeah.
And this is. It's funny because I was just talking to people. We do online courses, and we're just trying to put ideas together for next year and all that.
Yeah.
You know what people want the most? Because we've done surveys and all.
What?
Practice.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Show us how to do it.
I think that's right.
Yeah. And so the first thing I thought of, well, the very first thing, and that which Ram Dass was so clear about and helped so many people, was perspective. And before he died, the 10 years before, I mean, his whole thing was around a loving awareness and moving out of the story you tell yourself into the center of your being, breathing into it, and then being able to. You have one chapter about our symptoms are the beauty. And you didn't say it like this, but are the beauty
Sure.
that allows us to transform.
That's right.
And that's a central part. No.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let me go back to your question because I sense you feel I didn't fully answer it. Let me see if I can do a little better.
Okay.
So one dynamic that Western therapy illuminates is something they call pathological accommodation. It's Alice Miller, if you've ever read Alice Miller. It's a child that's trained. It's a book that was popular among a lot of lay people years ago. Drama of the gifted child. It's someone who's taught that they'll get love if they fit into what the parents want. So they're loved, except they can't feel good about it because they're loved for who they're not. They're loved for being who the parent needs them or wants them to be. So there's a dynamic that an analyst named Bernard Branchef talked about called pathological accommodation. It's excessive compliance, being false self, being what the other scoping out what the other person wants and giving it to them. So another issue in the scandals is, why do the students co-participate in it? And some of it is because they think they'll get higher on the spiritual hierarchy if they play ball with the teacher. And it can be any tradition. It could be Zen, it could be Theravada, it could be, I don't want to pick on any tradition, but that's another dynamic that's often not talked about. What's the dance both people may do? Now, sometimes it's just one oppressing, the one with power, the teacher oppressing the student, but sometimes the student is also participating, sometimes. And so what is that about? What's the psychology of that about? So that'd be another thing that Western psychotherapy could illuminate.
Well, no, I don't think I'll go there. I was going to talk about my first time even encountering any kind of Eastern anything. I guess I'll go there. Was going to have brunch on Sundays at the Hare Krishna temple. They had the best food. To this day, they have the best food, Indian food, and just really great food, and kirtan. I was just in India, I think I just told you.
Yep.
And it was one of the things I did. You just walked into this incredible temple in a place called Vrindavan in India, and just amazing kirtan. But also, we did notice, there's the other side, which are the people at the airport, which they don't seem to be at the airports too much anymore, but I did see somebody, must have been on the street, very glassy-eyed, selling you books and so on and so forth. So this is, again, historically, this is not new. And people, unfortunately, go through what they go through in the early parts of their life, which is one story after another in your book, right? And, geez, it's a tremendous, tremendous effect to lead people into some really disastrous lives. And, so I guess I keep pushing back on that one, don't I?
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah. But I guess the question is, this saying it's greed, ignorance, delusion can become an intellectualized explanation. The person doesn't really feel anything, and then they still do it again. So I'm very interested. The older I get, the more I'm interested in practice and embodying ethics in everyday life, not just talking about it, not critiquing it, talking about it, but living differently. So how could we help these teachers live differently? How could we help these students live differently? That's, to me, the practical problem.
Okay, that's good. I like it. Oh boy. There'd be I'm sure there already is a long line at the doorway to your office. You want to talk about something that is truly important. We just have a new book of Ram Dass, first posthumous book, and it's called There Is No Other. Okay, I mean, from the very beginning, he would talk about us and them, and once you're doing that inside yourself, and you're not even really realizing that. Yeah. But human understanding and the power of that, and that's I think something great to share.
Absolutely. I gave a talk 2 or 3 Saturdays ago at a international psychoanalytic conference called False Cures, Psychoanalytic and Meditative Reflections on the Emotional Allure of Trump. And what I tried to do is to treat
that's quite a subject.
I tried to treat his appeal. I tried to treat his supporters not as deplorable, but to really empathically understand them sympathetically. I've met some resistance in the world trying to do this work, but it's kind of in the direction of what you're talking about. I think this is, Raghu, I agree with you. I think it's crucial to work on this massive and increasing and escalating cultural polarization. Yeah. I don't have it solved. I've thought a lot about it. I don't have it solved, but I know some of the things that get in the way. And one of the big things that gets in the way is that the atmosphere in which we're thinking about this and having a dialogue is a judgmental, censorious, closed space where if you offer a perspective that's outside the perspective of the other person, you get on either side. I could find examples, frankly, on both sides. The person is canceled, the person is eliminated, the other person has rage, and there's censorship. There's no, it's not a brainstorming environment. I've had fantasies of cooking food for people in my community and inviting people, quote, on both sides
Yeah.
for dinner and having dialogues. There needs to really be an interest in understanding each other and respecting each other. We have to start, those who are able to do it have to start doing it, because it's only escalating and it's harming us. It's not, and you're right, it harms us as well as the other.
Yeah.
And let me say one more thing.
Yeah.
Implicit in Ram Dass's title, I think, if I understand it, and in my encountering him in the past and reading, there is no other. I don't think he doesn't mean there are no human beings other than us. It's not a solipsistic, but he just means where there's an interconnection.
Yes.
So it's not really a separation.
We are not separate islands.
And if we could see that, that helps. That as you fare, so fare I.
Exactly.
If we could see that, it helps. But right now, it seems to be very difficult for a lot of people to see.
Yeah, very difficult.
Very difficult.
I
Nearly
mentioned
impossible.
A few months ago, I said, "Oh, we have this great book. There is no other, finding wholeness within yourself." Blah blah. And this somebody in our area of age, longtime meditator, said, made the most outrageous, violent comment.
No.
From this, and this is, this is a little bit of ignorance, I will have to say. But interestingly enough, I think it's in the book. I'm pretty sure it's in the book. This particular
Now, so hold it for a second.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's go back to this thing that we haven't, maybe resolved yet. Okay. So we say that's ignorance. Now, maybe the person's scared. Maybe the person's fearful. We're not getting to what I've learned in my work is I've got to get to the real life texture of what someone's going through to be able to help them transform it. So once I put a kind of global label like that's their ignorance, it's like someone saying, "Oh, there's my depression," but are they depressed because they haven't lived up to their ideals? Are they depressed because they see the heartlessness in the world and it hurts their heart? Using the large label without getting into the texture, sometimes there's a Virginia Woolf line, an explanation blunts the sledgehammer of a blow. So in giving the explanation, we may hide the texture of what's happening. And in my work, that's always the pathway to their freedom, is seeing the specificity of what they're grappling with.
Well, then absolutely. And certainly admire, of course, your initiative to help people. And in fact, maybe we should put on ramdas.org a reference to you and a little, this would be perfect for you to get with Dr. Jeffrey and get help. Because let me tell you, it's inordinate, the amount of spiritual bypass that is going on.
And as you're alluding to, rage.
Yeah.
There's free-floating rage.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I got a call recently from a Democratic organization. Would I be willing to do a Zoom session because people are coming to one of the founders of it. It's a well-known Democratic organization. Many people have been coming to the founders and saying they're terrified about Thanksgiving. Why are they terrified? They're terrified they're going to be sitting with relatives. I won't mention the name, but from a different political persuasion than them, and they're terrified it's going to be horrible. Can I help them cope with it? So this is leaking out into the culture in powerful and destructive ways.
Really, it's unbelievable. The story I was going to tell of Ram Dass, which is from this book, There Is No Other, is that he said in the 60s, all of a sudden, we're in this moment of freedom in all ways through drugs and sexuality and so on. and politics related to, of course, the Vietnam War. And maybe we made a little bit of an error because we thought everybody would come along for the party. We'll put some acid in the water. Tim and Richard said at one point, it was a joke. Anyhow, he said, what's happening now is that there was such a big pushback, especially, fundamentalists and so on, to this movement, that it ended up being it was a precursor to the creation of that very cult of individualism.
Yes. Yeah.
And anger, a lot of anger towards this group who, free love and psychedelics and all that.
All of that becomes, unfortunately, a training video for the other side.
Yeah.
This is why we have to have the opposite position, because these people are dangerous. And one form it's taking now is a kind of spiritual war imagery, if you look at some of this stuff.
Like
and the
what?
other side are viewed as infidels. You know what I mean? The other side is viewed as infidels.
Yeah.
With points of view.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. We need another way. We do need another way. It's a signal we need another way.
Yeah.
The old structures are falling apart.
Yeah.
The center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. The blood time is loosed, and the ceremony of innocence is drowned. Yeah.
One of my favorite, I saw a few of the wonderful Zen poets, as you quote in the book, and one of them is Jizzo. Not knowing is the most intimate. And there's a lot of, that word is getting bandied about more often than not these days. What is true intimacy? And we've done, online courses, retreats around that.
Right.
Dogen said intimacy with all things is enlightenment. Right?
That's right. Right.
I love that quote. Yeah. But I think talk a little about how that, to me, the true intimacy that is the most important thing is intimacy with one's self. And for me, there's the first thing you do is your intimacy with the me, self-absorbed self, right? Hopefully, eventually, and that when we say empty of self, when the Buddhists say empty of self, that's where you start, empty of that grasping self. Right. And then, beyond that, we move into a place where we start to care about something other than ourselves, which leads us into finding a true non-self.
And a true, what I would call an interdependence with others, where we're still authentically ourselves, but we're connected in a very different way with the other.
Yeah, absolutely. Intimacy. How can people use that formidable noun in a way that can open up? I mean, courage has to be there to be able to be intimate on any level.
Absolutely, absolutely. The older I get, the more important I view practice. So I think that if one practices, that's what the practices are about. I was teaching meditation the other day, and I said to the students, they happen to be students from China. I was saying to them, it's a class actually on meditative therapy at a psychoanalytic institute. It's very strange. They're Chinese students from living in, most of them are living in China. Some are here. And I said, meditation is not about making something happen, in my opinion. It's about being with whatever's happening, but in a fundamentally different way, a spirit of self-friendship. So I think the more we practice, the more we have the experience of that, the more I look at this in a Zen, my Zen training opened this up. There's less separation between us and the rest. And in that, there's a vivified and deeper connection. And it's that I think we need to bring to other people. But first, we have to access it ourselves.
Yeah.
And it involves, as you said, it involves leaning into wounding. It involves courage and integrity. And it's one of life's hardest arts. It is. It's one of life's hardest arts.
Yeah. Not knowing, of course, reminded me of Bernie Glassman. That was his big thing, I mean, Ram Dass was quite friendly with him. He used to say, yeah, Bernie was like, that's all he spouts now. He's living in that moment of not knowing. But yeah, how is not knowing intimate? How does it relate to intimacy?
It doesn't have to, but it can, in my view. It can also be one's just lost, and they said they don't know. They don't know where they're driving.
Yeah, right.
Could be that too.
Yeah.
But what you're talking about, I think, is that you're not coming in with this fixed, rigid, essentialized identity, and then you're really more available. You're more available for a partner to say, you talk about Buddhism and compassion, but you're really impatient with the bus driver or really impatient with your child. It helps us not get locked into an identity that actually hides seeing who we are. So that's one of the important things about it. I don't coalesce, this is a rigid me, but I'm just more open to life being able to touch me, to feedback. My friend Joel, who died, used to talk about people could be feedback sensitive or feedback proof. Many of the leaders now are feedback proof, meaning they know we don't, and nothing we say or do will change that. But the way of growth is feedback sensitive, where I don't know, please, you could teach me. You could potentially teach me.
Yeah.
So part of the not knowing is I'm available, I'm receptive to receive from the world.
Yeah. It also occurs to me that when I say courage is necessary, but so is a realization of how prideful we can get about any position or even thought.
Oh, yeah. I've been saying this more and more in sessions in the last few years. Not just men, but a lot with men. There's a hidden pride that's often operative that gets in the way of being open to feedback, about a partner teaching us what we can't see, about a child or a client or anyone a student showing us what we can't yet see.
Yeah. Oh, so you have one thing in here, we've already talked about it, but I think it's worth speaking to a little bit more. Curing the patient of the illness created by their self-cure. I love that. Now, one thing that is an obvious thing is you get a practice, for instance, a meditative practice, chant practice, whatever it may be, and that becomes your all in all.
That's right.
You take a lot of pride in your commitment to that practice.
That's right.
And then the reality is, until that practice completely breaks down, you are just caught, as you would be caught in anything.
That's right.
Is this kind of part of what you're referring to here?
Yes, this is central to the book. So the idea is that we all have whatever wounds, traumas, challenging experiences we have when we're young. We don't have any power in the world when we're young. We really don't have any power. We don't have much resources. So we form what I call an emotional self-cure. We emotionally medicate ourselves. The person that's burned says they'll never trust anyone again. The person who's not loved learns, if I'm a great caretaker, then love will be forthcoming. We all learn strategies to cope with the original challenges in living. Those challenges I call a self-cure. And so when someone comes to me, I jokingly think to myself, there's two issues. There's what they're reporting, and there's the way they're responding or handling what they're reporting. And both, I think, need to be addressed for deep transformation. So in other words, often the way we manage the challenges, the self-cure, is exactly now was necessary and functional, but
Yeah.
now it's imprisoning.
Yeah.
Now it's imprisoning. And we need to see it, dismantle it, and find another way that works for us, that's healthy now.
Yeah. And
You're
that's,
referring to it. It's a story about a Zen master, but yeah, we had to cure the practice of self-cure that he had developed.
yeah, and that also takes more courage.
Exactly.
Change is just not something we're that we're happy to be involved with at any level.
You know, the thing I realized some years ago, one of the issues I think is that what most of us, I think, don't want real change. We say we do, we think we do, but real change is transformation, formation, going across form, changing our form. But mostly, I think change. My friend Joel, who died, I learned this from him, this great yogi and great person, Joel Kramer on the West Coast. He said most people don't want to change. They want to get rid of what they don't like and get more of what they like. But that's not change. It's
Yeah.
fiddling around at the edges. It's
right.
fine, but real transformation is a kind of psychological death. It's a kind of psychological death to who we were, who we thought we were. And it takes courage, but it also takes patience to go through that.
And psychedelics do give people that experience. It's just, what do you do with that? How do you integrate that into your life? How do you take those insights and make them work to the point? The point is to become not a great psychedelic taker, but a great person, more compassionate, kind, and that's
Exactly.
the point.
Exactly.
And Ram Dass had that down really well, and he could express that incredibly well. And that's one of the things we're going to be sharing with people as we go out there. Do you know who MAPS is? The people that are getting psilocybin or MDMA legalized with the FDA, so that it really does work. It's PTSD and addiction and death and dying and so on. Yeah. Another method that you can't just take with you forever,
Yeah.
and which is another issue. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
We should mention this because it's really the essence of your synthesizing of psychotherapy and Buddhism. To study the Buddha way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be enlightened by the 10,000 dharmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk about forgetting the self.
Sure. Aldous Huxley said, "She plays the piano best who forgets her fingers."
I never heard that. Really? I never read that.
Artists know this. Athletes know this. That the immersion without any self-consciousness leads to a different sort of engagement, effort, etc., manifestation of what we're doing, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
So forgetting the self is not. I talk about this in the chapter on the Zen Master. Forgetting the self is not dismissing yourself. It's not being self-conscious. It's not being. Michael Jordan was in playoffs against Houston in the 90s, and he hit his first 7 shots. And I said to the person next to me, and then after the 7th shot, he goes like this. If the audience is not hearing, they're just hearing it. My palms are facing upward.
No, it's on YouTube. You can express yourself.
And he brings his shoulders to the air, and he looks at the audience
I saw that. I remember the moment.
Okay. I said to the person, he's going to miss the next shot. He misses the next shot. How did you know? ESP? Nope. How did you know? I said he vacated the game. He left the game. You don't say I don't know. You stay in the flow of the game. You don't change that. So forgetting the self is not making the self the center of your perspective, but it's immersing in what someone else is saying. It's trying to understand someone else's point of view. It's it's an enriched experience of self, but it's not a self-conscious experience of self. It's Keith Jarrett sitting down, getting quiet, and doing cone concerts.
We love the same things. It's incredible, Jeffrey. Basketball and Keith Jarrett. And I'm going to throw in John Coltrane, who was when you had that experience with that shot when you were a kid, I had that experience with John Coltrane in a club someone snuck me into when I was 17 in Montreal, where I'm from.
What was he playing?
My favorite things.
Oh, my God.
Soprano.
So I was thinking of John Coltrane earlier in this interview when you said Hare Krishna, but I didn't want to interrupt you. I was in San Francisco airport years ago, and a Hare Krishna handed me Coltrane's autobiography, which I took and read.
Really?
He said
that's odd. Okay, that's weird.
I think he wanted money, but he said, I may have given him some money, but he gave me a small little book of Coltrane's, and in it, Coltrane said, "Be a force for good." I never forgot that. It had a big influence on me. So Coltrane was on my mind earlier today.
Oh, yeah. That's so great. Well, we're kind of up on our time, but I have to. So there was somebody that you work with, that you treated, and towards the end of the treatment, this is what they said. It's a great source, it is a source of great pathos to reflect that without psychoanalysis, I might have died without having been reunited with myself. And in that sense, without having truly lived, I don't feel divided anymore. And I finally know what I want to be at ease within my own skin. He felt joy, and he said, the joy, I suspect, of a man who is on the road to living a life he could honestly call his own. That is practical stuff. Forget the spiritual aphorisms and all of that, Jeffrey. This is what it's all about.
Exactly.
So
and when the moments get tough, those kind of experiences are rejuvenating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great to meet you, man.
You too. Thanks for everything.
Somehow we know each other. I know we do, but that's the way it goes, right?
Yeah.
Oh, boy. So everybody listening and watching, if you go to BeHereNowNetwork.com/mindrolling, we'll have show notes that'll link you to the two books that we've been speaking to. Jeffrey, you're going to send me links and all that, right?
Okay, sure.
Or get somebody to do it.
Yeah.
And we'll have that up there. And you all can take advantage of this. And I said to Jeffrey, if you didn't hear me, at the very beginning, this is something I love to get with psychoanalysts that are based in a Eastern purview, shall we say. And so I've done a number of these things. I even, sometimes let's do a little session here with me. Actually, you know who did that with me? Gabor Mate.
Uh-huh.
He ended up, your addiction. I said, what addiction? He said, well, okay, addiction is not, shooting up heroin. It's becoming obsessed with something, potentially. What happened? Oh, I was so into football. I became obsessed with football to shove aside all of the horror that I was living through with my father. So, boom, we went off from there. It was fantastic. So that's why I do podcasts. Get analyzed for free. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was very good meeting you and very good speaking to you.
Dr. Jeffrey Rubin, and everybody will see you next time on Mindrolling and the Be Here Now Network, and go there. And some of the people that we've been speaking about, Jack Kornfield and Sharon Salzberg and Joseph Goldstein particularly, they have podcasts that you can all delve into. So we'll see you next time.
Thanks so much. Yeah, take care.